Welcome to this video about writing for nursing. The purpose of this video is to help you find and evaluate authoritative information sources. We will cover four main areas: determining the authority of a source, learning about different source types, how to start the research process, and finally how to search and searching demos. First, we will talk about how to learn if a source is authoritative. There are two main strategies for determining authority: vertical reading and lateral reading. When you are looking at any source, remember to evaluate these four main criteria: the creator, the audience, the purpose, and the evidence. These are the strategies for vertical reading. When you are using vertical reading, you usually do not go beyond reading the source itself. First, look at the creator. Who is the creator? What is their background? Do they have expertise in a subject? Do they hold a societal position? Or do they have special experience? Is the information in the source consistent with other relevant sources? What is the purpose of the source? Is it to persuade, inform, to sell an item? Is the source itself relevant to your research topic? And finally, is it timely depending on your topic? Is it current, outdated, or obsolete? Lateral reading is important to use when you're looking at sources online, or if you want to look deeper into any research topic and make sure the source is completely sound. It goes beyond vertical reading where you only look at the source. Now you're looking beyond the source to multiple sources to look at the authority and credibility. When you are doing lateral reading, open several browser tabs and investigate the information. Google the articles, the websites, the authors, anything about the source, and use Wikipedia to find out background information. Think about these questions when you're looking at the source. Who is the author of the information? Is the information consistent, or is it conflicting across multiple websites? And finally, who published the information? Is there someone who has an agenda they're pushing, or is there a different way that people are presenting the information? Again, you can use these four evaluative criteria when you're looking at the source. The creator, so who published the source, who wrote the source, do they have the expertise in the area? The audience is who it was written for. So are they trying to sell a product? Are they informing the audience about a topic? Or is it written for experts in the field? What is the purpose of the source? Was it written to inform, persuade? Does it have any bias or anything like that? And with evidence, is there any data, other citations, other sources mentioned in the work itself that is evidence for what they're trying to say? With evidence, definitely go find the original source to make sure that nothing is being taken out of context. So we are going to practice lateral reading together. I'm going to go ahead and open up a tab, and we're going to look at the Heartland Institute. When you're looking at a source, first read about the source itself. On this, I would usually go to the About Us page. You can see there's a lot of information over here on the left. So if we look at the About Us page, you can see that it's one of the world's leading free market think tanks. It's a national nonprofit research and education organization. And if you read a little bit more, you can see there's a staff of 24. At this point, I would definitely go into looking at who's their experts, who are the board of directors, looking at the authors themselves, and trying to figure out a little bit more about that. Of course, whatever they have on their site, you definitely want to verify in other sources. So we're going to go ahead and open up Google, and we're going to search the Heartland Institute. So once we do that, then you can scroll down and we're going to look at Wikipedia. Now, don't use Wikipedia to find scholarly sources. It's really good for background information and learning more about a topic. So once you search something, definitely read Wikipedia, see if there's anything out there. And it looks like at the very top, it's talking about how the Heartland Institute rejected the scientific consensus on climate change and the negative health impacts of smoking. So that's interesting. Obviously, when the Heartland Institute is talking about it's a leading free market think tank, it's discussing climate change, then you're going to wonder, well, because it's not the best site, it's saying that it doesn't agree with climate change. When I read something on their site, is that going to be biased, or is it going to be leading a certain way? You can also go ahead and scroll down and read a little bit more about each of these issues. And I would recommend when you're looking at Wikipedia, definitely hover over the citation and go to that initial source, read a little bit more about it if you can, and see exactly where it's pointing to so that you can actually do lateral reading through this. So definitely make sure to verify any of the information within Wikipedia as well. You can always scroll down to the bottom to read more information that it provides, and sometimes there might be different articles that you can read as well. Also, when you're Googling, definitely see if there are any different news organizations or any other sites that are discussing this. So you can search for something in particular. Maybe we'll search for The Guardian and just see if there's any articles by that. So you can see here's an article here. Leak exposes how the Heartland Institute works to undermine climate science. So this would be a source that you could use to argue that the Heartland Institute is biased and not the best organization to talk about climate change. And then you can read just a little bit deeper in here, a little bit more about that. So again, when you're looking at a source, definitely take the time to read vertically. So read about the source itself on the sources site on the About page, but definitely do vertical reading as well. And lateral reading will allow you to get deeper into it. So you can read a little bit more about the Institute on different sources to make sure that it is a relevant source. So now that we have learned about how to assess the credibility and authority of sources through vertical and lateral reading, we are going to talk about different source types that you can use for your assignment. There are two main types of sources, popular and scholarly. There are aspects of both that are important. These can be used in certain ways. Popular sources are good to get background information. They could be news articles. They could be created by general public or some with some expert or additional knowledge in a field of study, so someone might have some understanding of the field. They're usually written for a non-academic audience. There are a variety of source types, but those haven't really gone through a critical review process. So in that case, you definitely need to use lateral reading to make sure that source is authoritative. And the evidence is usually not citations. It could be a few informal citations, maybe noting an interviewee or talking about someone in the field, but not going to have a reference list at the end. So these are good, again, like news articles, other magazine sources that would add to your research. But scholarly sources are usually better. They're created by people in the field, so professors, scholars, or experts, so they have that really deep knowledge of a source and the field that they're writing in, so they're able to speak more to that. They're written for an academic audience. They're usually scholarly journals, books, and they're written for people with knowledge of that subject too. The purpose of those is usually providing peer-reviewed articles or evaluating information on a topic. So it's gone through a deeper editorial process to actually be analyzed before it's published, unlike most non-scholarly sources. And of course, the evidence are different. It's usually formal citations and reference lists. So it's a lot easier to go back to those sources that they've cited rather than non-scholarly sources, where it could just be a couple references or links to a different source. So we're going to talk about a few different types of sources. First, we're going to talk about books. So scholarly books are really good for background information on a topic. They're usually published by university press, in this case, Princeton University Press. They're written, again, for scholars or students in the field, so they're deeper information, more of an overview of a topic, and they usually have citations. Non-scholarly books are published by pretty much any other publisher, like Viking Press. These are written for a non-academic audience. Sometimes they may be deeper, but a lot of times they're more surface level. Again, same thing, they're going to provide an overview or an in-depth look at a topic. And like I said, usually the citations are informal. Scholarly articles you can use for your assignment, and these are usually published in academic journals, which may be peer-reviewed. So not every academic journal is peer-reviewed, which means when an article is submitted to a paper, to a journal, then it's reviewed by other experts in the field before it's published. So it's gone through that process of peer review, you know it's of a higher quality. These articles are written for professors, researchers, or students in the field, so they're a lot deeper, they're more intense look at a subject. Usually provide current research articles or original studies, and they always include formal citations and a reference list. Non-scholarly articles are published in every other place except scholarly journals, so usually news publications, magazines, and these are not peer-reviewed. They're written for a general audience. They provide great background information, news articles about current events, or personal opinions. They usually have informal citations. Finally, we're going to talk briefly about websites. So there's a lot of different types of websites. We're kind of combining them into the two categories of scholarly and popular. So with scholarly websites, these are created by more scholarly sources. So academic institutions, research centers, government departments. They're usually written for an academic audience or for those with wanting to find original sources. They provide lots of types of data, reports, primary and secondary sources, and they usually have citations included. Non-scholarly websites are pretty much anything else. So news sites like the New York Times, created by the general public or organizations, usually written for a non-academic audience, and they provide a variety of source types. Again, citations are usually informal. Now, all this to say with websites, there are kind of two distinct areas, but of course, when you're looking at websites, you need to thoroughly evaluate them through lateral reading. So for this assignment, you can use books and articles. So I'm going to show you how to search for those, but first we're going to talk about how to actually start the research process. So you all probably have a topic in mind for your paper. If you want to discover how to find keywords or different terms you can use to search, you're going to want to find background information on your topic. So there's a couple different things that you could use. You can use search engines like Google. So with that, you can find keywords, general info on a topic, Wikipedia, that type of stuff. Of course, you need to really evaluate the information. You can also use reference databases, which are available through the Montgomery Library. These will also give you background information like encyclopedias, dictionaries, and different keywords you can use. Also, a lot of times they will have references and citations to academic sources that you can also use for your assignment. So when you're searching, then you're going to want to use different keywords. So I'm going to talk about how to use a search strategy. You can see the research question we're going to look at today on the screen. How can laughter play a role in the healing process? You don't want to just plug this whole sentence into the database. You want to break it down. So when you're developing that search strategy, you have your topic, you might have your research question already. So the first step, you want to identify keywords. Keywords can be the main terms from your topic, and that's where you're going to start searching. The second step is looking at synonyms or like terms that will describe those concepts. You want to have multiple terms that you can search because this will allow you to find all the information on a topic, and instead of being stuck with just one term which all authors may not have used. So first come up with the keywords, then come up with synonyms or like terms. After you have all your terms listed, I would suggest choose the best terms and use Boolean logic to separate them that you can search them. This is Boolean logic. If you haven't used it before, the database has it built in. So you can use pretty much any database, you can use any of these different commands, and they will either narrow or expand your search. Starting on the left with and will allow you to narrow your search. If you have multiple terms separated by and, like laughter and healing in this example here, the results will have to have both of these terms represented. I would recommend when you're searching, don't have more than 4 or 5 terms separated by and. Again, that will make your search much smaller because the articles will have to have all of those terms represented. With or in the middle, you can see it's going to expand your search. In this case, we're looking for laughter or humor. Both of these are really good keywords. They could be used by different authors or in different articles, so we want to see what's out there. You can separate synonyms by or. Either of those terms will have to show up. It doesn't have to be both, it could be either one of those. And keep in mind, the more terms you have separated by or, the more results you'll have, because not every single term has to be represented like and. Finally, you can see not on the far right. Not will remove a term from your search. In this case, depression. So we're not interested in that. Obviously, we're looking at laughter and healing. How does humor help with healing? So we don't really want to look at depression. Maybe we're focusing more on anxiety. So if I don't want to see a term represented, use the Boolean operator not, and that will take away that term. That will narrow your search. Again, use and with all your main keywords that you're looking for, the main themes of your topic. Use or to separate synonyms for each of those main keywords, and use not to take away terms that you don't need or that you see represented too often. This is the database search we're going to be doing in a little bit. So you can see I have laughter, humor, or comedy, so all of these terms could be used, and healing or medicine or disease. So again, we're looking for any of those terms to be represented. When I start demoing, I'm going to show you a few different ways to search. First, I'm going to show you how to find books. With the library catalog, you can find print books that we have in the Montgomery Library. We also have some ebook databases which have electronic books which you can access freely through your browser and read online. I will also show you how to find articles. I will show you how to do that in a second, but to do that, first you'll start at lonestar.edu. You'll choose the library's link at the top, find the research databases, and choose the health and medicine databases. In this case, we want to look at the health and medicine databases because you're looking at nursing topics. So these are the 3 databases I recommend. I am not going to show you all of these today. If you do need help with your research, please contact a librarian through these ways. You can call, you can schedule a research appointment to meet with a librarian in person or online. You can chat with anyone on the main library page. You can text a librarian, or you can email us for any help. Let's go ahead and jump over to the library website where I will show you how to start searching. We are on the lonestar.edu homepage. To get to the Libraries tab, scroll up to the top and you'll see this library's link. Click the link and you'll be on the main library homepage. We will come back and look at the catalog and the research databases in a minute, but first I want to show you how to get to the LSC-Montgomery library homepage. To do so, scroll down to the bottom of the page. You're going to see a list of research guides. These research guides are where you can go to find the exact homepage, and of course you will choose LSC-Montgomery. Once you're on this guide, you will know that there are a lot of different tabs on the left. You can look at anything about the STAR Center here, including tutoring and coaching and academic support. For today, I'm going to show you a research guide. So go ahead and scroll down and you're going to see subject guides over here on the left. You can go ahead and choose any of these guides and they will open up different ways to search. For today, I'm going to show you a list of other guides. These guides are ones that don't fit exactly into the subject searches, but are still useful. If you scroll down, you can see that there is a guide for English 1301, Writing and Nursing. Go ahead and choose that link and then make sure you hit go. On here, you can see all the information about your class on the left, and that will take you to different things. So you can read about your assignments. We're going to look at the research paper tab over here on the left, and on the middle, you'll see resources. So assignment overview, how to get started. Again, we have some video tutorials on all of these different things you can look at. We have research tips, which go into Boolean operators, making keywords, and identifying them. So different things we've talked about already. These are a list of recommended databases, and again, you want to look for the peer-reviewed database limiter when you're actually searching. As I mentioned on the presentation, there are a few I recommend. The ones I think are really great are Health Source Nursing Academic Edition, Gale 1 File, Health and Medicine here, and Academic Search Complete. You can start with Academic Search Complete as it is a multidisciplinary database and it will have information on any topic you're interested in. Any of these other ones, again, will have information for you. There are also a tab for books or ebooks. These are some books that we pulled that already work with your topics, so feel free to use these if you're interested in that. And of course, we have some additional resources which links you out to the specific nursing resource guide, which will give you more advanced information. On the left, you'll see under the research paper, there's a citation help tab. When you're doing your paper, you will need to use APA format. You can see on the left that there are different tabs. You're going to go to the APA citation style tab. The APA citation style tab will give you information on how to do everything in APA. You can learn how to format your document. We have some examples for the title page and the body page here. You can look at how to format a citation and the different elements, including author, date, titles, and sources. Look at how to make a reference list and how to format the list. Learn how to use in-text citations, and of course, it links you out to additional resources. If you look back at the left, you're going to see an APA citation example tab. Here we have color-coded all of the components, including author, year, title, publisher, DOI, or URL link. All of these are available for the different main types of sources, including books and journal articles. Feel free to check these out. If you do need help with citations as well, you can definitely come talk to a librarian, like I mentioned earlier in the presentation. So this is the main resource guide. Again, you're going to start at lonestar.edu, go to the Libraries tab at the top, scroll down to the bottom, choose the Montgomery Resource Guide. From there, you're going to navigate to the Other Guides link and go to the Writing and Nursing Guide. After that, you can look at the citation guide, you can look at how to find the databases, or you can look at any of the other information contained there. For now, I'm going to go back to the main page and I'm going to show you how to search for books. When you're on the main libraries page, you'll see, of course, underneath the picture is the library catalog. So like I mentioned, you're able to find both print and electronic books. It's up to you which ones you want to use. Of course, with print, you'll have to check those out and return those later, whereas electronic books are going to be available fully online for you. So I'm going to do just a basic search. You can just type in your keyword here. So Chinese medicine. I'm going to go ahead and search. You'll see on the left, there's a bunch of different libraries represented. If you want only books at this library, you'll want to choose the LSC-Montgomery link. Keep in mind you can use books from any of the libraries, the other LSC libraries, Harris County Public Libraries, or Montgomery County, and have them delivered here. I'm going to choose Montgomery for now, hit include at the top, and then we'll only be looking at books from this actual library. You can open up any of the results to read more about the book itself, including the summary and a table of contents. This will allow you to see if the book is useful for your research. You can also look at subject terms that show up underneath the main information about the book, and you can navigate through these to find other books with that topic. For example, if we're looking at acupuncture, I can go ahead and click that link, and it will take me to all of the results. Remember when you do that to definitely choose LSC Montgomery again if you want to limit to just the library, which will take you to this book. With print books, you can search, like I said, anything. Your main keywords are going to be really useful. You can plug in any terms at the top and then see if any of the books are available for checkout. We also have, like I said, electronic books. You're going to get there the same way that you get to the research databases. So you're on the main libraries page. We just took a look at the library catalog, and I'm going to look to the right at the research databases. The databases are arranged by topic and subject. So we're going to come back to the health and medicine list in a second, and we're going to take a look at the ebooks first. Within the ebooks, there's a lot of different types of ebooks that you'll find. I would just go to the general book, and we have the ebook collection and ebook central. Either of these are wonderful. There's a ton of books online. I'm just going to do a basic search to give you an example of what this looks like. And here, you can just type your keyword. You will need to get a little bit more specific to make sure that you're finding exactly what you're looking for. But we can start with a term like this. And you can see once I search, then I have all of the books that are available with that subject. All of these will have full text, so you can always go ahead and limit if you need to on the left, but those will be full text. You can look at the PDF, you can download the book if you have Adobe Digital Editions. If you need help with that, feel free to ask a librarian. But downloading the book is totally fine. You can also look at the PDF. So once you open a record, you can definitely read more about the book. You can do the subjects like I showed you earlier when you're searching, and you can see the table of contents. To view the book, choose the PDF link, and it will go ahead and open the book for you. Sometimes it takes a little bit to load depending on how big the book is. One thing I will note is you are allowed to print pages, but this is a limit. So you cannot print the whole book because of copyright restrictions, but you can print, in this case, 100 pages. Keep in mind it's usually about 10% of the book. Now that you've opened the book, you can go ahead and just read it just like you would normally, and it will take you to all of the different pages when it loads. I would recommend using print books for background information if you'd like. Also, any of the electronic books are going to be useful for that. And the importance of electronic books is because you don't have to actually carry those around with you. You can find these online. Feel free to check out any of the other ebook databases that we have as well. I'm going to go back to the research databases page, and we're going to take a look at 2 of the health and medicine databases. So when you're searching these databases, you're going to want to find articles for your topic. So you're going to want to go to the articles drop down at the top. Again, like I mentioned, any of these are great. There will be peer-reviewed journals in all of these. Some of the databases will have different journals represented, so definitely see if you can search at least 2 of the databases when you're looking, and you'll find different results. So we're going to go into Gale 1 file first, and I'm going to do a really basic search just to give you an idea. When you're in these databases, just type your keyword in here. So we're going to do therapy animal. And then the keyword field you can change if you need to, but keyword is totally fine. You can see our Boolean operators that I mentioned earlier. You can choose any of the ones that you prefer. At the bottom, you'll see search limiters. I'm going to choose peer-reviewed journals, and you can always choose full text, so you're not looking through articles that we don't have available. Once you do that, hit search. You can see that we have over 500 journals on this topic. Now you're going to want to get a little bit more specific. So to filter in this database, it's on the right. You can filter by publication date. Different subjects will give you different ways that you can narrow in. Subjects are also useful for additional keywords. So if you start really broad here, you can find different ways to narrow in a little bit more. And you can look at document type, which in this case you can see here there's a couple different things that will be provided to you. You can also look at the publication title, which is where it was published. So for subjects, I'm just going to narrow down a little bit more. Let's say I want to look at dogs specifically. So you can see in the middle these filters that we have: full text, peer-reviewed, and we're looking at dogs within therapy animals. And in this case, you can see all of these articles are going to be peer-reviewed and about therapy animals, dogs specifically. Because these are all full text, you can just click the link and then we'll go ahead and open up the article for you. You can definitely read this in the browser, or you can download the article at the top to save it. You can also cite within here at the cite button at the top, and you want to choose the APA edition. I will note though, I already see a couple issues with citation. So if you do use this, definitely use the citation guide to make sure it's correct. And you can see there's even a disclaimer here that sometimes there are issues with the citation. Again, this database is very helpful for looking for peer-reviewed articles on your topic, and it will have a ton of information. I'm going to show you just one more database, and then you will be free to try this on your own. We're also going to take a look at Health Source Nursing Academic Edition. And like I mentioned, a lot of times there might be journals or different articles in different databases that you may not find in the first database. So you want to get more specific. So at this time, I'm going to go to the advanced search. If you're using any type of Boolean operator or advanced searching, you want to come here because it will give you multiple terms and boxes to search. So I'm going to type in laughter or humor or comedy. If you see something pop up, you can autofill it. Same thing as before, you do not have to select a field unless you're looking for a specific author or title. The Boolean operators again are built in, and I'm going to search also healing or medicine or disease. In this database, there's always going to be search options just like the other one. So when I scroll down, I want to choose peer-reviewed. I can choose the date range. I think I'll do the last 10 years. And then I'm going to input 2022. You can choose different types of publications, images, anything like that. So you can see we have about 200 articles. Like before, you can always limit within your search results. So the last database we looked at, the refined results, was on the right. With any of the EBSCO databases, or these main ones that you'll see with this logo here, it's always going to be on the left. So we have our current search here. If I scroll down, you can see again, subjects. You can totally limit that way. You can limit by publication, anything you'd like. Now the subjects themselves, you'll see in the middle underneath the record, and these are different keywords that are used. So you can always narrow in a little bit more. So if I want to look at laughter specifically, then I can choose that, and all of these results will have to have this laughter subject within them. So let's look at one. If we take a look at this one here, the second one, you'll see the title, information, the subjects, and a lot of times it will have a PDF or an HTML full text. You can hover over the little magnifier to the right, and that will give you an abstract. So information about the article. I would recommend that you read the abstract because you want to make sure it actually fits within what you're searching for before you open the record. If it does work, go ahead and open it. You can use, of course, the HTML or the PDF text on the left. Like the other database, you can do a variety of things with the article, and there is a cite button. But like I mentioned earlier, definitely double check this citation, make sure it's correct before you turn in your assignment. So that's a little bit about how to use these health databases to find information for your assignment. If you do have any questions at all, please do not hesitate to contact the library. Thank you for watching this video.